Hey guys, so this is the first video in a new series called Climbing the Rating Ladder. If you haven't heard of these kind of videos before, basically it's people who play lower rated players and kind of increase their rating all the way up to a certain level. So I'm going to start at the 600 to 800 range, just play a couple people and then continue to play people up, 800 to 1,000, 1,000 to 1,200, probably all the way up to about 2,000, 2,200. I'm focusing on keeping this very beginner friendly, beginner and intermediate. So probably if you're under 1,600, you're going to get the most benefit from this. So yeah, so now I'm going to go try to find somebody between 600 and 800. All right, guys, so we got someone 788. It's a 5-minute game, so it's pretty quick. So I'm not going to spend too much time on each move because I don't want to just run out of time. But I am going to try to, like I said, explain my thought process. So E4, I'm going to play D5. This is a Scandinavian defense. I have studied this and played this not a ton, but I'm somewhat familiar, so that's what I usually play. And I actually play this Knight F6 line, which is kind of a gambit. They can hold onto the pawn if they want with C4. He doesn't, so I'm just going to recapture it. And I'm going to try to focus on developing my pieces. It's early in the game, so that's really the top priority, developing my pieces and then castling. Okay, so I'm just going to bring my other knight out. Okay, so he's pinning it. I'm not too worried. He doesn't have any other pieces that can attack it. Like if this knight was already developed, I might have to consider that it could come in there and put pressure on that knight. But since it's not there, I'm not worried about that at this moment. So I will probably just develop this bishop. Okay, and I got to recapture. So right now I'm just kind of scanning the position for weaknesses. So I'm noticing that the bishop is under attack. He's probably going to see that, but I'm also, attacking on G2. This pawn is defended once, but I have two pieces lined up on it. So if this pin ever goes away, that could become a weakness. I'm thinking about castling. Okay, C4, not a bad move. So he's attacking my queen and defending his bishop. Now remember I said this G2 pawn was weak, so that looks like the best move. I'm just kind of trying to consider if there's anything else that makes sense, but I think that looks like the best move to threaten the rook in the corner. Okay, queen F3, that's a solid move, so I can't take the rook anymore because obviously his queen will take me. Normally I don't want to trade queens, I'd like to keep them on the board, but in this case, retreating like maybe back here looks a little risky because he's going to have a lot of pressure on that knight. So I think I do need to make this trade. And now I'm going to play bishop e4. The idea here is that I don't want his knight to come in here and get too much pressure on this knight. So I'm going to play bishop e4 to attack his knight, also defend my knight, and create this pin where he'll lose his rook if he tried to do that. I'm anticipating a move like king e2 to defend it, and then I'll probably castle queenside, to get out of this pin, because this pin is a big problem for me right now. So I'm going to do that, castle, so now my knight becomes active and I can actually make moves with it. So it looks like I can win this pawn by trading the bishop. Okay, so I'm thinking about how I'd like to take this pawn, but because it's defended twice, I can't really do that. But if I trade this bishop first, I remove the knight, and now this is a weak pawn. And now I just have to decide which way do I want to recapture. I think I'm going to go with the knight because it's check, and I leave this discovered attack on his rook. And I'm just, considering, do I want to go into an endgame and trade off some more pieces? Because I'm up a pawn, so it's 3, he has 5 pawns and I have 3, 6, 7. Trading is probably a good thing, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. He's probably going to take my rook. Yep. And now really I just need to get these pieces out as quickly as possible. We are getting to the end game, so I am going to want to use my king. So I have to keep that in mind as well. So I'm going to go for e5. I'll probably put this pawn here if he checks me. And then, develop the bishop and try to get my rook to the open file. Okay, so he's attacking this pawn. Sometimes you can let them capture that pawn and then trap the bishop. So I'm considering if I want to go for that. Maybe play king c8, let him take, and then play there. a4, king e2, a5 takes. Yeah, so I think I can set a little trap here. So I'll play king c8. If he takes it, I'm going to play b6 and trap his bishop in the corner over here, and then I'll be able to bring my... Yep, so he went for it. This is a little good to know trick. Now I can bring my king up, and the bishop is going to be trapped. I do need to get these pieces involved, but you know, right now there's nothing else really under attack, so I do have the time to do this. Okay, so I could go there and go for my plan of taking his bishop. The problem is, if I go there right now, it lets his rook come down, which is going to create a pin and really lock up these pieces for at least a couple moves. Not something that I want to do, and I don't have to let him, so I'm going to play bishop here. And as I say that, and I just noticed that if I play bishop there, he can sacrifice here, and then if I take, he's going to take my bishop. So I'll go bishop c5 instead. The point is, his bishop's not going anywhere. It's still stuck, so I don't want to let his rook come down and pin me. I'll just wait, you know, another move before I kind of go for this to take his bishop. And I may even, you know, wait another move, play bishop d4 to block his rook from coming down. Because if I play there, he can get his rook here, and he's going to get some counterplay. Okay, so yeah, I'm just going to defend my pawn. I still have this, you know, move available, so I'm not really in a rush to do that. And I think I may even trade these rooks first, just because, you know, if I go there, he can play his rook here, and then I have to deal with quite a few pawns that can, they can come under attack. So by offering this trade, it just looks like a simpler way to go into the endgame. Okay, so that's a pretty good move, because if I capture it, I'm going to lose the bishop, so I can't do that, so I have to bring the king over. Okay, if he would have played a6, that would have been actually kind of interesting, but this is not good because now his bishop is trapped, so kind of made it easy on me there. Okay, so at this point, you know, because of the extra piece, I really just need to take pawns and you know, get a queen and just keep an eye on his pawns to make sure that none of them become a queen. That's really the only way I could possibly lose this game, right, if this pawn somehow got down here. So I'm just going to push this forward, and it'll be defended by my bishop. And that'll kind of tie up his king to guard it, or he's not going to worry about it, and that's not good either because I just get a queen. So at this point, it's relatively straightforward. I'm just going to go get a queen and checkmate. All right, so we've got another 5-minute game, 800, so I'm white this time. So he's playing the French defense. I'm just going to play d4. Oh, knight c6. Okay, usually the move is d5. I'm not actually sure what this is called. But it's early in the game. I'm just going to develop, not going to overthink it. I'm just going to develop my pieces to good squares. Try to castle early. So just developing. I'll play bishop g5, so he's putting pressure on this e4 pawn, so I'm going to pin the knight so that I don't lose a pawn here. Okay, so he's breaking the pin, and I'll play e5 just to gain some space, and kind of makes this bishop pretty bad. It can't really do much, so you know, notice that this bishop is out of the pawn chain. This bishop has good squares that it can go to, so should be slightly better for me for those reasons. So So I'm considering, I could just trade it. I could play something kind of a little bit more interesting, like h4, more aggressive, but I might want to castle that way. So I'll probably just trade this bishop off. And then I'm going to bring this bishop either to d3 or b5. I think I'm going to go bishop to d3. So if he captures this, I'm going to recapture and get this nice, strong pawn chain where all these pawns will be connected. And usually, as a rule of thumb, you want to attack in the direction of your pawn chain. So since these pawns would be kind of aimed that way, my bishop's lined up that way, if he does castle, I should be able to get a strong attack on his king over there. And he castles right into it. So that's something, if you're playing against someone and they have a bishop lined up that way and their pawn chain is lined up that way, you might want to think twice. So now, I know I said I was going to castle here, but because he castled and I already have this bishop lined up, I'm going to change my plan and be aggressive here and play h4. And the idea is I want to defend this square so that my knight can come in. And by bringing my knight in, I'm also going to be letting my queen out. And he's going to all of a sudden have, 3 major pieces. And, I mean, this is not, going to help him over there, right? So, knight to g5 is what I would like to do. I also can just sacrifice the bishop first, which might be better. So I'm debating if I capture, he captures, I play check. He's probably going to go back, and then I can play queen h5. This is a common idea where you sacrifice the bishop on h7. It looks good enough to me that I think I'm going to just do it. So I'm going to capture, and then I'll play knight g5 after he recaptures. And the reason why this is going to be so strong for me is because these 2 pieces are on the other side of the board, not really able to defend, right? So queen h5, and I have this checkmate threat, and I'm not seeing a way that he can prevent it. I mean, other than, I don't think he can really stop this. He can try to move his rook to create a space to run, but it's just going to be check and checkmate. If this knight was better positioned, maybe he could, have done something, but because these pieces were locked on the other side of the board, there's not really anything he can do, and this is just checkmate. All right, well, hey guys, I hope you learned something from those videos. Next, I'll be doing 800 to 1,000 and continuing to work my way up and trying to really focus on explaining the thought process. As I get to some of the higher rated levels, I may play a little bit longer time controls just so I have more time to explain my thought process. I don't have to worry about getting into time pressure so quickly, but let me know if you thought that was a good pace or if it was too fast or too slow. But as always, stay sharp, play smart, and take care.